1970 was the year at age 10 that I woke up to music. Dominating AM radio at that time were great songs by the Stones, Creedence, and of course the Beatles. But ultimately, no matter what anybody says, 1970 was the year of the Canadian band, the Guess Who. Up to this point, the Guess Who had scored with a couple soft pop hits. But in 1970, they unveiled their harder rock side and it paid off. First with their song No Time, soaring up the charts, and then with American Woman, the first song by a Canadian band ever to hit #1 on the US Billboard charts. The Guess Who were superstars in 1970, and they became my band. And on the label of every Guess Who record, you saw that they were all written by the team of guitarist Randy Bachman and lead vocalist extraordinaire Burton Cummings. Because of their sudden slew of hits, some rock and roll pundits actually started referring to Bachman Cummings as Canada's Lennon and McCartney, and the Guess Who is the Canadian Beatles. Bullshit as far as I was concerned. To the 10-year-old me, it was the other way around. The Beatles were the British Guess Who. When the Beatles announced later in 1970 that they were going to break up, I was like, good, fuck the Beatles. It's not like people are going to remember who they are 10 years from now. Well, in spite of my efforts as the Guess Who's ambassador to the world, playing their records over and over again until I drove everybody nuts, things didn't quite turn out the way I envisioned. 1970 ended up being the pinnacle of the Guess Who's career. And as much as I hate to admit it, the Guess Who's legacy is one song and one song only, American Woman. It's the only one of their hits that still keeps popping up. In the movie American Beauty, Kevin Spacey fires up a joint in his car, shoves in a CD, and drives down the road screaming, "American woman, stay away from me." Lenny Kravitz also had a huge hit with it, his version somehow making people believe that the song is about how sexy American women are. But of course, that's not what the song's about. It was 1970, the height of the Vietnam War. American Woman was a not-so-subtle message from our friends across the border. I don't need your war machines. I don't need your ghetto scenes. Colored lights can hypnotize, sparkle someone else's eyes. How ironic is it that the first song by a Canadian band ever to reach #1 in the US is this blistering anti-American rant. But somehow nobody gets it. They hear that iconic, muscular Led Zeppelin-ish guitar riff and the word American screamed over and over, and they think that somehow it's a patriotic song. I've even heard it played at 4th of July celebrations. But maybe my most surreal American Woman moment came in October of 2001 in San Antonio, Texas, just weeks after the tragedy of 9/11. They say that timing is everything, and unfortunately for the Guess Who, it was at this time that they were in the midst of their first ever reunion tour across the US. Of course, I'd been giddy all summer about the prospect of finally seeing my heroes perform live, but as I drove to San Antonio from my home in Austin, I was more than a little concerned about how a bunch of Canadians would be received, screaming out their anti-American lyrics to a hyper-patriotic crowd in the Deep South. But the concert started well. We 40-plus-year-olds were transformed back to 1970, faces beaming, united, and singing the lyrics to those great pop songs we all knew by heart. I got the feeling, though, that my boys on stage shared my concerns. In between songs, the lead singer brought up the tragic events of 9/11, stirring the crowd with talk about what a great country America is, how we would rebound from this horrific attack, and how justice would prevail. To me, it seemed a little transparently patronizing, but fortunately the crowd, a good percentage of which was decked out in cowboy hats and more than a little bit of red, white, and blue, was eating it up. Then the moment of truth finally arrived, and as that unmistakable guitar riff blasted through the air, we all responded just as Pavlov's dogs are supposed to. A sudden roar erupted and people jumped up and danced frantically in front of their seats. Others, myself included, spilled out into the aisles and charged down to the stage. It was a triumphant moment. My lifelong dream realized at age 41, the Guess Who was rocking right out there in front of me, and I was shoulder to shoulder inside a crowd of frenzied Guess Who fans, all of us righteously pumping our fists in the air, and without a trace of irony, screaming out the words to the most blatant anti-American anthem of all time. So in the end, I now understand the true message of American Woman. It's a message to musicians everywhere. If you could come up with an infectious guitar riff, one that really grabs people by the balls and gets so stuck in their heads that they can't get it out, you can pretty much sing whatever the hell you want. The words just don't mean shit.